Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to just be talking to you guys a little bit. Oh my god. Today we are talking all things macros. I feel like that's a hot topic word. Everybody loves to ask about what are your macros, how do you track your macros, what do you eat, all that good stuff. So we are going to cover in this video specifically on how to track your macros. My sister actually was asking me today, like, what should I do? How do I track what I'm eating throughout the day? And so I thought, I was like, you know what, this would be a perfect time to film a video and just talk through some things that I do in my everyday life. I track my macros, I use MyFitnessPal, I use a food scale. I do all of these things every single day, and I've been doing them for such a long time that I feel confident to share my experience. I just wanted to first go over some things that I feel are super necessary to getting started with tracking macros. And the first thing would be just before you even think about tracking your macros is figuring out what your goals are, because that's going to determine what your macro splits are. And what I mean by when I say macros, I've probably said that 1,000 times already, is it's really just the quantity of carbs, fat, and protein that are in a specific amount of food. For everything that you eat, it has a macro split, and your overall macro split throughout your day, what your macros are, is going to always be different than the person next to you or the other person in the gym or whatever it is. So what I always say is that you should first think about your goals, because that's going to determine what your macros are to some sense. After you determine what your goal is, the next step is to obviously determine what your macros are. If you have questions or you don't know how to figure out what your macros would be, you can reach out to me, send me a DM, send me an email, whatever it is, and I can help you do that. Or I can also connect you with one of my resources that helped me determine where I should be at. Or there's also tons of online resources that you can use. Just disclaimer, just be careful with any online calculators, things like that, because sometimes they will skew the numbers a little bit, but for the most part, they should be okay. I found personally it's always best to first work with a nutrition coach, because they're going to prescribe you the macros that are perfect for you and not just a general online calculator. But if you're just looking to get started, long story short, look online, talk to people. Once you determine your goals, you figure out what your macros are going to be, now really just comes the work. So now you're going to start to learn how to track your meals. Really, how I like to think about it is that every single day is like a macro puzzle. I have X amount of carbs, X amount of fat, X amount of protein, and meals and snacks to fill in with that quantity. Now you are going to need just a couple of like pieces of equipment, I guess you could say. And one, you're gonna need a food scale. This is the most accurate way to weigh out your food. So once you get that, then the other thing I recommend that you get is some type of tracking app. My sister just got here, so I am going to take you with me and show you all there is to know about macro counting. I don't know. I am going to walk Taylor through everything that she'll need to do to input her food for her dinner. So she'll work through first tracking it into her MyFitnessPal, and then she'll also work through actually weighing out the different food based on what she logged in her MyFitnessPal. So for dinner, we're having something super simple. We're just gonna have chicken, rice, and then this veggie salad. So I'm going to just have her first scan all of the items into MyFitnessPal and then adjust the weights accordingly. So first things first, she is going to pull up her Fitness Pal and she's gonna scan the rice. That's one thing I did recommend when she was getting her equipment. So she got her scale, this beauty, way nicer than mine. And then she also got my Fitness Pal, and I recommended she buy the premium version because it allows you to track in grams, and that is the most accurate way to track your meals. So it's just gonna be a lot easier and a lot less time consuming to just purchase the premium and then have that like ease of using grams instead of percentages on the free version. Google discount codes. You will get some free stuff. We love free. Okay,
so I have it on here.
That.
And it just says 210 calories, 46 grams of carbs, etc.
Exactly. So now that it's loaded into my Fitness Pal, that is one serving.
Okay.
So when you're going to measure it out, you will be using the one serving, which is 142 grams.
Okay.
So let's say all of a sudden you didn't want a full cup of rice.
Mm-hmm.
What you can do then is just divide that number by 2 and then do a half serving.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I mean by when you're doing your daily macros is you can kind of like piece together different meals based on what you have left in terms of maybe carbs, for example, with rice. If you don't have the 46 grams of carbs, maybe you only have 20 something. And so instead of using the full serving, just use the half serving and load that into my Fitness Pal and then weigh that exact measurement out. We are going to look at is chicken. Meat is one of those things that you have to be really careful with because the way you track it and the way you cook it is gonna make a huge difference. Raw meat is gonna weigh more than cooked meat. What I always remember is if I'm tracking it in cooked, 85 grams of chicken equals 112 grams. Fitness Pal, what you can do is just track it raw. So just do 4 ounces of chicken in there.
So then we'll go to...
So then you'll go to the search.
Add food.
Yep.
Search for food.
Chicken.
Just plain ass chicken. Raw chicken breast.
Yep.
112 grams.
Yep.
Okay. Raw chicken breast.
So now I'm going to have her scan this salad. This salad has a serving size of 1 cup or 100 grams, and that includes the dressing on there as well. And that's, we're just gonna have 1 serving of it.
So I'll just scan this.
Yep, so she's gonna just scan the bottom of it.
This is way easier than the non-premium version.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it popped right up.
So one thing you do have to be careful about when you're scanning is to double check the nutrition label with what popped up on my Fitness Pal because sometimes it gets lost in translation and it's incorrect. So I always then go back through and say 6 grams of fat.
Yep.
Right. You can look up right up there. 6 grams of fat, 14 carbs, and 3 grams of protein, 120 calories.
Yeah.
For 1 cup, 1 serving. Mm-hmm. So perfect. I love when that happens, when it's easy. You don't have to worry about it, like adjusting it in my Fitness Pal. So salad is logged.
Okay.
And last thing that I'm going to have her log is we're gonna have a little bit of butter on our rice. So this is the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because so many people won't track butters or oils or different sauces that they're using in their cooking. It is so important to track it because just because you use it to cook doesn't mean that you're not getting the macros from it. So you still need to track it. So we're going to use a half tablespoon of unsalted butter.
Okay.
So you can search that.
And we'll just do half a serving.
Yep, so just 0.5. I like to work in decimals on my Fitness Pal. It's just easier for me, so then change it to 0.5, and then it will adjust those macros in the butter for a half serving. So that is all good.
Okay, no.
So now that we loaded everything into MyFitnessPal, the next step is to weigh out all of those different ingredients using your scale based on the measurements that we put in MyFitnessPal.
When do you track, like when do you use the app? Do you do it while you're cooking? Do you do it when you're prepping? Like when do you have your app out?
I use my app the night before. So before I go to bed, I will create all of my meals for the next day.
Okay.
Based on what I have in my fridge, what snacks I want. So then as I'm going throughout my day, all I do is open MyFitnessPal and say like, oh, I'm having waffles and an egg for breakfast.
Oh, I like that.
Grab that stuff out and then boom, you're good.
Okay.
What I found by doing that is if I go meal by meal, all of a sudden I'll come to dinner and what if I ate way more throughout the middle of the day and then all of a sudden I'm like, well, great, I can only have an egg for dinner. Like that's not satisfying. So it's like I like to space it out accordingly.
But do you go off of like the remaining stuff on here or do you just know?
Yeah, so as I'm adding into my day, so for example, if we go to tomorrow, those are my macros are laid out. Nothing is entered into MyFitnessPal yet. So if I go to add my breakfast, let's just add the waffles that I'll have tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll click the waffle, it'll pull them up, I'll click the check mark, and then it'll automatically subtract the macros of the waffle from my overall
from
day
your
macros.
Nutrients remaining.
Exactly. So then I know for like the rest of my meals, this is what I have left. So as I'm inputting the rest of my day, I'm kind of looking at those numbers and adjusting to make sure that everything fits into my day.
Okay.
And if you go over, it'll turn red and have like a red minus sign of maybe you went over by 10 calories or 7 grams of protein or whatever it is.
For like a beginner, what is most important to be accurate? Like, would you say carbs and protein, calories, or does it just depend? What?
For tracking macros, I would really highly suggest hitting all of your numbers within 5 grams, give or take.
Okay.
So when you're starting off, it's gonna be a little bit clunkier to hit those numbers exactly, but everything needs to be within 5 grams.
Okay.
It's only looking at your carbs or fat, your protein. That sometimes like, it's weird, like all of a sudden maybe you just have fat left over. For example, today I usually wouldn't eat butter, but I was low on fat and I'm like, okay, all of my other numbers are filled up to the brim. What food can I eat that's only gonna fill up fat? Butter, oil.
Yeah.
Same thing for carbs. What if all of my protein, all of my fat is filled up, but I need 20 grams of carbs? What can I eat that's only carbs?
Okay.
Dried fruits, different like juices, things like that are just gonna be carb sources, then it doesn't mess with any of your other numbers.
Okay.
It takes a little bit of like that adjustment period just to get used to like, are my numbers right? What like prepping and planning works the best for me, and then from there it's just small changes in maybe your number. We're gonna make our food now, so I always use a measuring bowl because a large plate like doesn't fit on there correctly, so I'll always just grab something to measure everything out in. We just finished Taylor's first official tracked meal
It wasn't
ever.
that bad. It was actually pretty easy, I will say. I'll come back in 4 months and let you know how it's going.
We'll check in with her, but she'll be great. It'll be fun, and yeah. So if you guys have any other questions or just anything about tracking macros, Kiwi can
Ask
help
me
you.
because I'm a pro.
Kiwi will help you. No, just send me a message and I'll help you as best as I can.